So I decided to make this video to show you that there's quite a bit that you can do in Prusa Slicer. You don't have to learn another program to do simple modeling. I made this entirely with Prusa Slicer. I could have done it in Blender, but I wanted to show that you can do quite a bit in Prusa Slicer. And to be honest with you, I do quite a bit of blending in using both Prusa Slicer and Blender, because Blender is not exactly made to do 3D I mean, it's made for doing animation, 3D modeling with animation, but sometimes it's not the easiest to use. And I'm somewhat new, and I've kind of taught myself most of it myself, but it's a little bit powerful, and it just sometimes it's kind of tiring to use. So when I can do something the easier way, I will do it the easier way. So that's why I will use Blender and then mix it with Prusa Slicer to just make life easier. And you know what? Why not? Why not make life easier when you can? You know, life is hard enough. So I made this entirely in Prusa Slicer. It's a little cat treat tower, so you put the treats in and then the cat will reach in. And it uses reusable spools. If my cat were here, wherever she is, my little wonderful, sweet cat. She's a reformed. She's nicer. Let's put it that way. She's nicer than she used to be. She used to be a very mean cat, and you know, we've always had her, but she long story short, she decided for a long time that she wanted to plan her grand escape, and she was the pickiest cat, and she did not belong in this household. She hated our household. She belonged in a palace, you know, with servants to serve her, and she got chased out the house. And, well, she didn't get chased out the house, okay. She escaped from the house, got chased by a feral cat, found her way into the neighbor's crawl space within the 5 minutes that he was looking for the lock to put the lock on it, was lost for a week during Christmas, which I cried my eyes out looking for her every night. And then finally found her, and she came back a much more reformed, nice, happy kitty, okay? So she now, you know, she now acts like she enjoys being at home. And it was, you know, she's a much nicer cat. She will let me brush her 1 or 2 times, and I can pet her a couple more times before, you know, well, I can brush her all of one time. I have to say, I can brush her 1 time, and she'll let me pet her if there are treats involved, okay? I have to bribe her love, okay? But, treat tower for her, because she likes her treats, okay? So, how to model this in Prusa Slicer. So, I'm going to put this, and, you know, 100% no glue used, okay? Everything screws into the other. I use a 0.8 size nozzle to make it faster, so if you're using a different size nozzle, you might have to change the scaling to make sure that so that it fits better in your slicer, or not your slicer, so that one part fits better into the other. But I don't recommend that anybody uses any X-Acto knives or anything unsafe, and this is not rated for children. But when I scaled mine, I didn't scale it enough. The first time I made one of the parts, and I had to use an X-Acto knife to kind of take out, because some of the seams were getting in the way and causing too much friction, okay? So I used an X-Acto knife to make it, but I don't recommend anybody use any sharp tools or machinery or equipment. I just recommend that people are very safe and careful and use common sense, and everybody does everything at their own risk. I am not recommending anybody to do anything, okay? Everybody just be careful. Okay? Alright, so let's get to this, and let's do this as fast as we can. So, just so you know, where are we? I have this over here, okay? And this is where I had the original file. I call them computer trolls. Okay, and the reason I call them computer trolls is because it's user error, but it's more fun to blame imaginary computer trolls. And there's the kitty cat. Okay, if I might end up picking her up and showing you guys to her. But she, one sec. she's gonna come. Does Kitty want some treats? One second. This is the princess. She looks like she belongs in a tower. There are treats involved, so I'm not being harmed by making this. But if I were to have a brush, you would get the vacuum, you would get the sound of an angry vacuum. But yes. So I made this little tower for her, so here we go. So, okay. So these are all the parts that I used, and they look very differently because there are negative volumes and well, I'll just show you. I'm going to take this and move it to the side because I had everything measured out, and it makes it easier to just have it to the, I have a 2 screen setup, and it makes it easier to just have all the measurements so that I don't have to waste time using my broken caliper. my caliper is like off by half. So I have to like look at it and try to make it work, and it just doesn't want to work for me. So we're going to not do that. I'm just going to use the measurements I already have, make things go faster, you know, just be as efficient as possible because everyone loves efficiency, right? So we are going to use so we're going to use our Prusa slicer, and I'm using, if anybody is interested, I am using the Alpha 4 2.6, the one that has the organic supports. But you don't need, for this, what I'm doing, you don't need to have the Prusa slicer 2.6 for most of what I'm doing, okay? I will try to remember that most people don't have. The only thing that maybe you might want the 2.6 is this, I might cut something on its side, but I'll try to remember just to rotate it and then cut, okay? Because that's what I did for the longest time. I never used the rotate. And to be honest with you, the rotate tool, the cut by rotate still needs a little bit of work because as you rotate it, so quick note, I do everything on the right-hand side. There's a table that when you open something, here, I'll show you. So first, really quickly, we're going to go to Shape Gallery, and we're going to add our cylinder. Add to bed, okay? So you're going to want to make sure that it is at least, so that it doesn't fall over, you want it to be at least around the same diameter as the spools that you're putting on top of it. So that's about 200, okay? And you're going to want to unlock, or you're going to have a really tall item, and that's just not going to make sense, okay? So let's put this to 25. That's about right, okay? Now, okay, what we're going to do is, so like I said, right here you're going to notice that this object manipulation came up, okay? So I do mostly everything to the right here, all right? Now, that's kind of important because I could rotate things on the left, but if you do something in like, and it goes, and you rotate it like 270.5 or 90.3, well, if I go to rescale that object, you're going to have a lot of problems. It's not going to scale exactly. It's going to scale like a little bit slanted, and it will cause problems later on, and you have to undo a whole bunch. It's a headache. So don't do it. It's tempting. Don't do it. And when you do everything on the right-hand side, it's kind of nice because what you can then do is say, hey, well, I did that by 90 degrees. I'll just undo it by 90 degrees. And you can actually do negatives in the side, in the rotates. So highly, highly recommend getting used to it. And it gets really fast, okay? You get pretty fast by it, okay? So quickly, let's move on. And we are going to go Window, Shape Gallery. We're going to add a torus, okay? Add to bed. Now, torus is going to be small. So let's make this 195, okay? 195. And this is probably the one time I could have kept the the torus locked so that it will kind of keep it somewhat of the right size. Okay, but we're going to cut a little bit off the top, a little bit off the bottom. Otherwise, we're going to have little rings. Like right here, if you notice, the first time, of course I dropped it. It's the drop troll. Okay, so right here, there are little rings, okay? Because when I did it originally, instead, you might be able to see it, okay? Because when I did it originally, instead of cutting it on the bottom, I just made more toruses and I just subtracted them that way, okay? But this time we're going to cut it so that we don't have that problem, okay? So we're going to cut it from the bottom and we're going to go down because you want to keep the curve, okay? So if you cut up too much from the top, you're not going to have much of a curve, okay? And you're going to want this kind of nice curve, okay? So let's take off, let's say 5. Let's take off 5, okay? Okay, and we're going to only keep A. We don't want part B, okay? Now, let's cut again 5, and then you flip it I flipped it upside down so that I didn't have to do it. And we want to cut it off the bottom. You could cut it off the top, but it's just easier to cut off the bottom because that way you cut 5 off the top, 5 off the bottom. Same off both, okay? Perform cut, okay? And you're only keeping A, okay? So, now what we're going to do is we are going to merge them together. So you can hit Control A, but let's say you had more objects on the plate. For some reason, on the plate, you have to click the item, Shift, click, to click on both, okay? And then you would right click and hit merge. But over here under name, you would hit Control. I don't know why. Okay? I don't know why it's different. But whatever. It might be because it's alpha 4, maybe it's different in alpha 3. I don't remember. We're not going to linger on that. Okay? So we're going to make sure that everything is centered, okay? So under merged, okay, we're going to hit cylinder. I'm going to go to object coordinates, okay? And you see X and Y are 0. X and Y and 0. That means that they are centered perfectly in the middle, okay? So I'm going to right click. We are going to go change type and we're going to be a negative volume. So when you slice now, you're going to notice that maybe that's what you want, but that's not what I want. We're going to need to move this up a little bit, okay? So let's slice now, and you're going to notice that that is what we have now, okay? So I'm going to want to move that up just a little bit more, okay? I'm going to want to move this up a little bit more to like right there, okay? So let's slice now, okay? And it's kind of good to have a little bit more on the bottom because in that way you have a little bit of weight on the bottom so that it doesn't topple over as easily, okay? So, and then if you want, you can even lift it up. You can even lift it up more, or you can, if you want to, you can make the base a little bit smaller. You can make this cylinder. It doesn't have to be 25. It could be 20 if you want it to be. Oops, sorry. Never mind. Let's take this and we're going to undo the lock. We're going to go 20. Okay. And now let's see how that looks like now. Okay. You'll notice there's a little bit more of a curve now. Okay. So we're going to want to make this part not as big. Okay. So we're going to take the torus. Now you could first do the toruses and then you can copy and paste it, but I recommend first making it into a negative volume and then copying and pasting because you can't click a whole bunch and then change type right yet, okay? You'd have to do them individually. So if you have like 15 that you want to make into a negative volume, well, you have to do it individually. So yeah, so first change it to a negative volume and then we're going to copy the torus. We're going to paste and then we're going to resize that, okay? And resize it over here. You might be tempted to resize it on the left, but you'll notice that if I resize it over here, it's also going to resize the Z, okay? So when you hit slice, you're going to see that weird thing. That's not what we want, okay? So we're going to undo that, and then we're going to resize this over here, okay? So let's say we want our size to be Let's do 170 and 170. We're going to keep Z alone. Okay. And you could probably even go 160. And then you kind of will play with this until you get it exactly what you want. There's a lot of playing with variables, and you'll see that that is much bigger. You know, it's bigger now. And then what you could do is you could add a third one, or you could just play with it, but for video's sake and just making it faster, I'm just going to copy, I'm going to paste a third one. I'm going to make this 140. Tab 140. Okay. I could probably do 130 on that one. Okay. So there you go. All right. And you'll notice that it's much better, and I'll make it a faster print too. So now we have that. Now what we're going to need to do is first, real quickly, this always kills me. Bye-bye. Okay. So how do we get that part that you just showed me where you screw one thing into another? Okay. Now, first we're going to take this and we're going to take this off the bed for a second, okay? And we're going to move it off. This is the one thing I actually do use on the left. It's that moving the item off, okay? Now, we are going to Window. We are going to Shape Gallery. And notice that they have already loaded an M3 screw. Okay, so we're going to add this to the bed, okay? And it's itty bitty. It's so cute, okay? So let's make this itty bitty M3 much bigger. Okay, so let me see what I had the sizing so that we can kind of get like exact sizes. So let's see here. No, that's not the one I want. Okay, let's find the one that I need. Okay, so okay, the size I had for that would be okay. So we want to make this 85.08, okay? So let's make this 85.08, okay? Tab 85.08. Oops, that's not what I wanted at all. We all make mistakes. And to be honest with you, I just realized that these are my scaled down version sizes, okay? So this will be the size of after it's been scaled down 99.5%. I just realized that I accidentally closed what it was before, but this would have been like 86, I believe the original was, and I'll just do 86 to begin with. We'll start with 86 and I'll show you how I would make it smaller, just so that you have that if you need it. Okay. So we're going to first just keep it scaled, okay? We'll start with there, and we'll go 86 tab. Okay, so you're going to notice that you have a much longer and bigger than what you need. So we're first going to cut it down, okay? Because we don't need one that's that large. Okay. So we're going to only keep B because we don't need A. Okay. So, and then we're going to cut it again. This time we want A but not B. Okay. Go about right there. Okay. So we're going to perform the cut. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is this is 86. Now remember, well, first let me create it. Okay. So first we're going to create the column. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to your shape gallery, add to bed. Okay, we're going to make this column 86. Is it locked? Okay, so yeah, 86. Okay. Now, we're going to merge them together. Okay. So let's merge them together. So click the two you want. So click, control, click if you're over here on the right. You're going to hit merge. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move, and the reason you do it that way is because you have to, before you can move one item up or down, you have to Come on. You have to click on the one you want, okay? So, now, you'll see that that is like that, okay? So, this item is going to fit into there, okay? So, if you want to, every once in a while, it sometimes does give you problems. Sometimes when you'll scale one item, you'll notice that, like if I were to, well, we'll just do it, and it'll probably come up as I make the video, okay? But sometimes you'll go here, like, and you'll have this. Well, let's just do it, okay? So, lost my train of thought. Okay. So, this you're going to notice right here is a little bit too big still, so we're still going to want to cut it, okay? So I'm going to cut it, and we're going to keep the top, okay? Object A. Yes. Cut. Okay. So, that looks like it'll be good, okay? Now, what you can do is, if you want, you don't have to, you can scale this like so and make it a little bit bigger so you don't need supports, okay? Because if you have about 45-degree angles, if it's like 45 degrees, then you don't need supports, all right? So if I were to hit slice now, and I were to have supports everywhere, yes, and you want to do this before, okay? Before you make this part a negative volume, okay? So let's scale this. And let's go to our print settings and support material. This is set to 50. Let's make this 45. You don't want to go any lower than that. Okay, you'll notice that I have supports everywhere, but this does not need supports, okay? So that might be still a little bit too tall, because if I were to put that into there, it would probably go through the bottom, and then it would be kind of like wobbling off the bottom. So we're going to have to cut it a little bit, okay? So what you can do is, if you notice that this right here is, the height of this cylinder is 20, okay? You can flip the whole item by $180, okay? And let's see, go down, okay. Or actually, I should have kept it the other way. I just realized I should have kept it the other way. 180. Let's cut. So from the top, okay, bottom part. Okay, yeah, so the top part, it seems like you don't have to get it exact. You're going to want a little bit of wiggle room right there, okay? So let's take off, so if it's 20, let's take off the 863. You know, let's take off a little bit more than that. Let's take off 10, okay? So we're going to take off 10 off the top. So, you know what, let's do the 180 again. I'm just going to cut off the bottom. I like cutting off the bottom. We're going to do 10. Okay, and we're going to keep object A. Okay. So, that is going to need to be subtracted from there, okay? So, what we're going to do is I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. So, we're going to have two of these items, okay? Now, you don't need both parts of this. So, to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to take this here, okay? And I am going to, like I said, in order for this to fit, to go here, what first we're going to do is we're going to take this, I'm going to split this into objects, okay? Come here. And I'm going to delete the cylinder portion. I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to bring this back to the plate. I'm going to click these both. And I'm going to merge them. I'm going to center the items with the object coordinates on the right. And then I'm going to go down. Okay, and I'm going to 0 the X and the Y, so that is exactly centered in the middle, okay? I'm going to bring it up. we're going to make this into a negative volume. Okay? Now, let's see how far it goes down. Okay, you'll see that it goes down, and that's part that can be screwed, okay? So, you can also make it go down a little bit more. Slice now. All right, so now I'm going to make this part so it doesn't show. Now, so like I said, I use a 0.8 size nozzle, okay? Have to keep in mind that if I do it as is, what's going to happen is this part is going to be, it's going to be such a tight fit that you're going to have so much friction, it's not going to fit in as well as you want it to, okay? So you're going to have to take this and you're going to want to do, I found that 99.5 works really well. So you're going to want to scale it 99.5, okay? And then that works really well. Okay, now for the next part, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to be what I feel is efficient, okay? You may call it lazy, but I'm going to say efficient. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, and the part that we need next is, let me take this part off. The part that we need next is the part that fits. So that was this part right here, okay? And that part is what fits into here. Okay? Now, you'll notice that this part is bigger, so this part, the spool, can't fit onto that part, but what you need is the spool to have a smaller diameter so that it can fit inside, okay? So when I measured it, it was, what was it? Let me see. Okay, so the cylinder, I measured it to be, it was like 72, okay? So we're going to make this 72. Okay, and then, let's see. So we're going to change this to 72. We're going to unlock, okay? We're going to do 72 and 72. And the height that I used, okay, so altogether the height was 140, okay? So if you change the height, remember you're changing the thread height as well. So you want to change, if you're changing the whole item, you want to do that before you make a negative volume because you're going to take this and make this a negative volume for this item, okay? So you want to change the whole height. If this part has already been used as a negative volume, then you would just use the cylinder portion and change the height of that instead and not touch that part, okay? But since it doesn't matter right yet, we can change the whole item, okay? So we're going to want the height to be 140, I believe it was, because we need to be able to fit both spools, okay? So, all right, let's do 140. Not 7,000. 140, but we're just 140, okay? Well, the whole item's supposed to be 140, that's okay. So, tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move the M3 screw. We're going to move it up to the 140 to where you can just see it. And now if you want to use a scale, this is where I would use a scale, but I would use it on the cylinder. And we're going to move... No, why? So, this is why I don't use a scale, okay? So I am just going to move. Okay. So I guess we're going to take off 34.5, okay? So let's take off, so 34. Oh, let's just make it 106. Let's see if that works. 6. Oh no. That did not work the way I wanted it to, but it's okay. It'll be fine. It'll be fine, I'm telling myself. It's altogether fine. 139.34. That's good enough, right? That's good enough. One, it'll be nice when you can just take this item and put it... Okay. No. Okay. So let's do this, okay? So, and then you know what? I'll just do 140. It is so close. It's okay. All right, it's okay. So now this item is going to be a negative volume to that. So we're going to copy again, copy, paste, okay? Let's move this one off the bed, okay? So we leave that one alone. We're going to, again, make this into objects. We're going to delete the cylinder part of this, okay? And we're going to make this and merge it to here. Okay, and we're going to zero out all these variables, only the x and the y, okay? And it does get a little bit wonky at first, but then everything centers exactly where you want it to, okay? Just as long as you don't do the z. Unless you want to do the z. You may want to do the z, but we don't in this case. Okay, and then we're going to turn this into a negative volume. Change type into a negative volume. Okay, slice now. And it will show like that because it has to have supports, okay? But what I needed to have done is I need to move it down a little bit, okay? So we don't need that part of it, okay? What I probably should have done, okay, slice now. So you'll notice that only that part is, okay? So you'll notice that when you come in, you'll see, you can kind of see how it will be like a thread, okay? That little threaded motion there, okay? If I were to turn it upside down, of course, if I were to turn the whole object upside down, and then slice it now, you can see the threaded part, okay? So I'm going to do it, I just did that for demonstration so you could see what I needed you to see there, okay? So let's go back, okay? Now I'm going to move this to the side now that you have it. Okay, now remember, this whole item over here needs to be 99.5, but look, when you look at this merge right here, this is what I was trying to tell you earlier. It is 83.72. You can't really 99.5% that, okay? So what you have to do is you have to go under the individual, okay? Now, for some reason, when you go and I press enter, or when I go and I hit the next box, that goes to 100, okay? I don't know why. But it might, I don't know if that's an alpha thing or if that is just the way it works. I'm not entirely sure, but 99.5, you do it for the X and the Y, okay? And then it will be where you need it to be, okay? So, now that we created that, I'm going to move it to the side, okay? Now, we're going to create a bottom, okay? And before, when I did this, I did it like this, and I kind of had wished that I had made the top separate, because it would have been easier, I feel, than doing it this way. But you are free to just add a cylinder to the top, and you could just have like one piece if you wanted to, okay? And then you would just add a cylinder, just do it that way, okay? But I'm going to just practically do the same thing. Copy, we're gonna paste here, okay? And this is what we shall do. We will take the cylinder, we will just make it smaller. We'll just make it, what? I'll make it a little bit thicker so it's not so thin. Let's make it 5. Okay. And what did I measure that to be? That was measured to be 84.57. Yeah, 84.57. So 84.57 and 84.57. Okay. Now we're going to take this part, and you know what? We're going to cut. We're going to cut it this time. Okay, so let's cut. And you could have done it this way for all the rest of it too. We're just going to cut, and we're going to. So before you do that, there's a little trick you can do, is if you want to cut it, you can keep both parts, or what you can do is move this part higher with the part you want to keep, okay? Now when we cut off the part we want, come on. Okay, so we are going to only keep A. Okay, now we're going to flip everything. I keep forgetting to turn the flip upside down thing off. We need to move the cylinder down. Okay, and we need to move the screw part up. Okay, so that will be in the top, and then we're going to make this a negative volume for that, okay? Kind of same thing, okay? So take this, we're going to really quickly just object, and for the most part it's fine. Yeah, they're a little bit off, and you don't want it to be a little bit off because you need this top part right here is going to need to fit into here. If it's off center, you're going to have problems later, and you don't want to waste a print just because you didn't zero things out. Oh, object. It needs to be object 0, 0, 0. Okay? So, copy, paste. All right. So, here we go. So the reason why I don't just come and delete it, because if you just delete cylinder, it will just say merged, okay? That's why I go ahead and I just split it to objects. Cylinder, take this one, we're going to shift, merge, we're going to object, okay, and then 0. Okay, and move this part down just a tiny itty little bit. Okay, and make it negative. All right, slice now. All right, and then remember again, over on this one, we are going to want, so this time you notice that the scale factors, for whatever reason now, don't say 88 point whatever, you can just 99.5 that, okay? And 99.5, okay? So, now you have that part, okay? So now we need to make the cover, okay? So let's make the cover. So, we're going to add a cylinder, and what you have to do first is we need to measure the size that is going to cover, okay? So I could have made it so that it goes inside, but I felt like doing it the quickest way. And the quickest way was to make one big cover that just covered it all, okay? So, shape gallery, again, cylinder, add to bed. So we need to make that 200. Okay? So first you're going to make the size of what will be the negative volume, okay? And keep in mind that, here, one sec. Keep in mind that it has to, first you make what will be the negative volume, and then you'll make it a little bit bigger, okay? Especially when you work with a bigger nozzle, sometimes the print is a little bit bigger. It's not always as precise as working with a smaller nozzle, okay? Let's see, so let's go to, let's make it the size we want. 200 and 200. Okay. And I think what I have is actually 200.69, but that's okay. I'll just do 200.69. Okay, height is 124.4. Okay. So this is what will become the negative volume, okay? But first we need to add another cylinder. So what you can do is you can copy and you can paste, okay? And this is going to have to be, so let's first merge, okay? let's first merge these two together. So shift, click, and we're going to merge, okay? And then we're going to center them. Okay, so it'll look like you have one object, okay? Now, you need to make one object bigger than the other, okay? So for me, what I used was 206.99. Let's do 206 if you want a faster print a little bit. 206, 206, and 126. Okay? Now, you're going to want to take the smaller one and make that the negative volume, okay? Change negative volume, okay? And you're going to want to bring that item up. Okay? So, yeah, I know. You're going to want to move the whole thing and center the whole thing. Okay, slice now. So there's going to be a kind of like a lampshade, okay? Now, I like it so that it comes on and off easily. If you wanted to, you could just add this part right there and one part would screw into the other. But then when you want to put treats in and out, it'll be just kind of more difficult. So let's just keep them separate, okay? So what you could do is you could add that and then like make it bigger, but I just add another. And if you want to make it a little different, if we can add a different shape, we can add a helper disc. Let's add a helper disc, okay? Because it's different. So we're going to make this helper disc. What size is this helper disc going to be? 92. Okay, so this little helper disc is going to be 92, and we're going to make it 5. Okay, and we're going to, it's not, is it centered? Let's see. Oh, wait, first let's merge it, okay? First we got to merge. Okay, now let's see here. Okay, and object. I do wish that it was object first, so yeah, it's not. Okay, so now that it is centered, let's make it a negative volume. Change type, negative volume, okay. Slice now. And the nice thing is when you have something that you want to print multiple items, but you don't want to print them all at once, you can just, hide them, So you can just use like the little hide buttons over here, which is really nice, which is kind of nice, So that way, okay. All right. So, yeah, so that's what we have so far. Now, we want to make the little holes, okay? I want to make them bigger than what I had them for here, so that you have a little bit better structure. So, we're going to add a cylinder, okay? We're going to do it just a little bit different. It's practically a lot of the same thing. This one is a little bit more repetitive than some of my other ones. I mean, I've made a hand on Prusa slicer before. That one was a little bit more fun. It took a lot of ingenuity to do that one. That one was definitely different. But it wasn't like, it didn't like move or anything. It was just very basic. It was, I think I have it actually. I did this in another program for a little while, but I made like this Poppy Playtime, and I made the fingers, these fingers, like I drew this bottom part in AutoCAD. I probably could have done Prusa Slicer for the bottom part, but like the fingers, this was all done in Prusa Slicer. The fingers itself was all Prusa Slicer. The negative volume was Prusa Slicer. So, and this hand part, just the shape of it, I did it in an AutoCAD program. So, and then this is all, I did a good portion of this in Prusa Slicer. This was mixed with another program. Oh, the computer trolls got me again. So I'm just going to voice over, try to get exactly what I had. It's a little bit harder to voice over a recording, but here we go. So I used originally another program with this, but most of it I probably could have done at Prusa Slicer, but this was the very beginning of learning, and I was trying to learn a different program at the time. It looks like right here, I'll probably, so this is the cutout portion that I'm about to redo or to remodel with the Prusa Slicer. So right here, let's see. So I took a cylinder, okay, and we're going to need to rotate that. Okay, so we'll probably take that and so right here, you'll notice I renamed it so that it would be easier to tell, but after I merge it right here, for whatever reason, when I added it, it didn't keep the name. So right here again, I'm going to rename that again to just make it a little bit easier to tell what is what. Otherwise, you're going to have cylinder, cylinder, cylinder. It's going to be a little bit more confusing, okay? So you want, even though I try to move it to the bottom, you can't move it to the bottom until you change the type, and negative volumes like to stay to the bottom, okay? So move it all the way to the bottom because it's important that you move it to the bottom, and you want to move it to the bottom because it'll make sense in a second, but you don't want to have cutout cylinder cutout because you're going to have a whole bunch of cutouts in a second, okay? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to rotate it, and I have I think a mess up right here, but you're going to want to rotate it so that it extends out from both sides. We could do it and have a bunch more cutouts, but it's just easier to have one item that extends out both sides, okay? And let's see, what am I doing here? Computer trolls. I am the computer troll. I'm definitely a computer troll. It's user error, yes. For some reason, I don't know what I did to make my sound cut off, but I got myself apparently. I'm the computer troll. Okay, so yes, so here, right here, you'll see that I made the cylinder extend out both sides, okay? I'm going to have to lift this up, okay? And I'm going to want to make it bigger so that it has a little bit more plastic on both sides whenever I do that. I was tired when I recorded this. I recorded this at like 5 a.m. So my youngest sister has autism, and I try to do this at like when she's asleep. We're at her day center, but like I just noticed that the computer trolls got me, so I'm just doing this really quickly so people have this. So there you'll notice I made it bigger. I made it 70 wide and about 50 tall, and then I'm moving it up, okay? And you can do this however you want to, okay? So what I do is I'm copying it and I'm pasting it and I'm taking it straight up with that move tool, okay? Now I'm going to copy and paste both of these two together, and that's why it's important on the right-hand side that those are together with each other, okay? So copy, and then I'm going to paste them again, okay? And then over there on the rotate on the right-hand side, I did it by, I believe it was 45 degrees, okay? So I'm going to copy, paste, and rotate by 45 degrees, okay? And you could do it by 30 degrees if you wanted to. You could do it by 60 degrees if you wanted to, and you can play with it however you want. Now, what I wish I would have done is I wish I would have made a hole in the top to drop the treats. I didn't do that. I should have done it. I can still do that. But what's nice about this is you can do that yourself. You have all the tools. All you would do is add a negative volume, add a cylinder, make it negative volume, place it where you want to place it. Easy enough. So here you notice that right there, I added supports, and those look like they are grid supports. You will want to change them to snug supports, and my snug supports came out really nicely. You don't want to do organics because organics will reach outside the bed, and there's no way to do like half organics, half snugs, and there's no way to choose for the organics to go on the inside, okay? So the snugs came out like that, and I typically print in PETG or ABS. I don't do PLA because I like my filament being able to work with higher heat temperatures, because I like to be able to take a grinder. I don't want to say grinder, a rotary tool to mine. I don't like to hand sand anything. I love, I don't recommend anybody do that, but I have safety equipment and I have safety masks, and I will use a Dremel, like rotary tool, Milwaukee. That's what I use, a Milwaukee Dremel and a sander, and I will use that on my equipment or on my, with my PETG. And that works pretty well. I'm not hand sanding anything. So yeah, you'll want to use a mask and safety equipment and safety goggles. So yeah, so that is how I did that. Pretty simple. Practically, you know, it's kind of amazing what you can really do in Prusa. And you see that right there. I'm showing, you know, if you can see it in that itty bitty screen, you know, you can see all the models there. And when you want to print, you just use those little eyes. You use the eyes on the right. You move the model you want off the screen, and then you will click on the eyes to hide it so that it's not trying to print it, because that will hide it from the printer, and then just center the item you want on the bed, and you can print it one item at a time. Okay. Oh, and right now I think I am doing, so right here I decided, if you have a jerk of a cat, I love my cat. She's sweet, but sometimes she likes to throw her treat thing off because I have it on an elevated perch, because I also have dogs, and she likes to throw it off because she's learned that she can make all the treats fall out all at once. Okay, so she's really smart. Okay, she's really smart about that. So what I did is I'm adding a torch to the bed, and I'm going to make it so that it can hang off. And if you want to make it a bird feeder, hey, you could even turn this into a bird feeder. You can do so much. It's a bird feeder now. So I'm making this a Taurus, and I'm playing around with the settings because there's a lot you can do. I think I was trying to see if I could make it with minimal supports here. If I wanted to make it with minimal supports, that's probably something I would need Blender to do, or I would need to find an STL that already was probably more triangular. I could probably have created it if I had taken two don't want to say slabs. If I had taken two of the squares, shaped them into rectangles, and if I had cut them in such a way that they made two 45-degree angles, it'd be easier to show you, and that's probably something I'll do next time. But if you do that and you cut them, I could have probably made that in such a way that it wouldn't have needed supports. But this video is long enough, and I think I just wanted to show you easy enough, you know, I mean, it's a first time tutorial video, so, and I kind of procrastinated and put this in last minute, so there you go. You'll have to dig out that support. Hopefully, you know, it wasn't too hard for me to dig out. You'll probably want some kind of, you know, prying tool to get that out. Hopefully it's not too difficult for anyone to get out. Might be annoying though. Might be a little annoying, in all honesty, to get that out. I'm resizing it. If you probably make it a little bit bigger, it'll be easier to get out. You know, but this is the great part of it. Size it to whatever you want to size it to, you know? And if you don't want it and you have a cat that isn't as high maintenance as my little princess is, then you don't have to add it. Inversely, you could turn it upside down, and you could make it so that instead of it being inside the model, you can make it so that it's outside. You could also take that Taurus, cut off a little bit off the bottom and the top, and then you could put it on the side, and then you could add hooks to each side. There are just so many things that you can do with this. You know, you're not limited at all. There's just a lot of opportunities with this, and I you know, I do use Blender, but when I'm being lazy or I just get tired, you know, because I just don't sleep enough, you know, I'll just use a mix of both. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this, and bye-bye. For the most part, you can kind of take it off with your hands. I just want to take it off carefully, because it is kind of a thin piece. And then for the parts that don't come off, if you have a flush cutters, this would be kind of the best time to use something like this. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but just kind of very gently. So this is not something I recommend anyone do. I was wearing a face mask, but the one thing I like about PETG and ABS, and one of the reasons why I don't tend to print in PLA, is I like being able to use my, and this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, I do like being able to use my rotary tool and being able to use like a little grinder and gently just being able to sand away with the the grinder, just some of the edges. It's kind of a nice way to do it, and it just makes it a lot faster. I probably did all of that in like 4 to 5 minutes, but there is a little bit of cleanup that is required with that. So just a heads up, if you're going to do that, don't recommend doing that inside. You will have dust particles everywhere. So wear a mask, all safety precautions, and just make sure that you prepare before you use a rotary tool with that. Just keep in mind that dust will fly everywhere, and you do potentially risk ruining your print, so make sure you use a little test. So one thing I do wish that I would have done is I wish I would have made a little hole here so I could have dropped the cat treats there, but here it is assembled, and there it is. And you can see there's a bunch of cat hair on it because Kitty's been already playing with it. So